Okay, starting the next turn in India, or card, or however you want to look at an Andean Abyss, the cartels use the event here to set up this Insurgent momentum, which is going to give them additional cash per base when the propaganda comes up. This gives them a real incentive to build more bases, which they probably want to do anyway. They're in kind of rough shape with them. Of course, that gives the government more targets to get more aid. Painful trade-off. On the other side, the AUC took the second action, and they fired off an action in special operation, or special activity. What they did was they did a rally action, building up some of the forces they had, and then they also did a special activity of the extortion, which gave them a couple extra bucks. So they ended up netting -1 buck and getting 3 pieces on the board. That's gonna dump us into the next turn. Now notice the FARC did not get to take a pass. The card didn't allow them to go because the first 2 players went. That's gonna move this next card into play, and then we're gonna see these carabineros. Which looks like something valuable for the AUC. We can replace police with AUC guerrillas. That sounds tasty for them. I caught myself, I think I failed to flip over and activate the AUC guerrillas that were required for the extortion activity. I wanted to make sure it's the same for them. I'm thinking about the same with the FARC. They're very close to their victory conditions right now. They need, 3 more bases? Well, they're going to do a rally action. They'd consider denying this card, but they don't think the government's going to play it either. The government option picks one department, activates all guerrillas, and removes the cartel bases. Well, there aren't any cartel bases, so that seems kind of pointless. The other side of the event is a hostage search and invasion. Government removes troops. The government and FARC are ineligible through the next card. Well, they're going to be ineligible through the next card if the government acts on this one. Well, the government decided to fire off that event, activating all of these. The FARC ended up reaching their victory condition, which means we're in kind of this dangerous zone. If somebody doesn't start hitting them, they may well win the game right away. It's going to move this Caballeros down to be available, and now we have Madrid donors. Add lesser of 8 or 20 to the government resources. That adds 6 more. Wow. Oh, the government may want that if they can get it, but they've fired off. I forgot to move these. So unless they can cut a deal with either the cartel or the AUC, it's unlikely they're going to see that. No sweep or assaults in departments until next propaganda. Well, I don't think anybody's going to play that card. The FARC would love to get it out there. What's kind of neat in this is there's nothing hidden. Most of the modern games have these hands of cards that are hidden. This has well, figure out what you want to do. It's coming up. It's more of a Euro style than a CDG really is. CDG certainly isn't Euro style, but and you would say this isn't really either. But you've got this kind of almost like tiles coming up in a row in something like I don't know, Power Grid or something. It's kind of neat to see how these are kind of bleeding in. I like this style with the openness a lot better for solo play. Yes, I have to think pretty hard still, but I'm not constantly picking up people's hands trying to figure out what I want to do. Very nice. Even without the got this whole set of special 4 solo rules. Even without them, it plays fairly well. It's funny, I'm behind the times. I look at this. No, the government will get to play this one. They don't get to play the Caballeros. You always have the option to be involved in the card. You just may have to hold off the current turns. Now, obviously, there's a question, well, do the cartels want to hold off? This is a card they're probably not going to get to play any better than they do off the, well, maybe. I bet you the government does take the donors, the event, although they're risking things with it. So the cartel would get a full action where they might not get one here. Okay, so we're doing something new here. The AUC is going to do an attack. This is 1 resource per space selected. I'm using the blacks for this. 1, 2, 3 it looks like that they're spending. And along with that, they're going to fire off an ambush over here. That means they're using their special ability. They're using the full ops. Whatever the cartel wants to do, they can do. All right, so how do we do this? Well, let's do the ambush first. These suckers, I believe, get turned off. The guerrillas get activated. Now, you would roll a die normally, but it's an ambush, so we're going to kill these. And what that just did is it made 2 FARC bases in danger. Now, the guerrillas could have done other things, right? Let me think. They could have done a terror to try to lower some of the opposition markers and possibly assassinated a unit along with that. The reason they don't want to do that is they're interested in getting their bases above the FARC bases. So they want to reduce the FARC bases more than they really want to reduce the opposition to the government levels. That's more the government's problem, but by opening things up like this, they're making the world more attractive for government to attack FARC bases, which they may do. Of course, we're pretty sure the government's going to do this, which may end up costing them the game if they're not careful. Well, you can always use... They'll be able to see whether there's a propaganda card up there before they fire it off. If there is one, of course, they may not be able to do that. Anyway, that was our ambush, and that gets rid of these. I've already paid the money for these. Now this one, here I need to roll a 1 or a 2. And I kill 2 units, which would include that FARC base there. It doesn't happen. This would have been a wiser attack, actually. Too bad I didn't do it. Let me get rid of this. And then we'll do the same over here. Because these are guerrillas attacking, I'm having trouble with my hands. Because these are guerrillas attacking, they can actually hit things that aren't active. Here they also do not get a success. This is a shame, and they probably should have done this just to kill that base. They haven't really affected things too much. Figure out what I'm doing with the cartel. Alright, the cartel passed and used a resource, and now we push this card. The reason they're passing is they think they're going to get this full action here. So getting a bonus resource is probably about as good as they could do off a limited option. They didn't want that event. And we have Castaño, Memoir bestseller. Shifts towards support or a base. Well, I don't know. We'll look into that later. Alright. So the government took the big bucks off the card. They didn't have to worry about a propaganda round. And the cartels had been holding off for this card because now they knew that the government would take those big bucks. So they get the ops plus secondary activity or special activity. For the ops, they did a rally, spent a fortune putting tons and tons of pieces, especially here where they got 4 additional pieces by doing rallies. But in other cases, kind of popping into areas that they don't think are too contested, that there's not going to be a lot of heat on them. And then they use the cultivate option to throw this down here in the mountains. Again, way out of the way of everyone. They want to make sure that they've got some action going on down there where things are kind of out of the way. That shoots these over. And we get another card. Los Derechos Humanos. Shift each space with cubes in terror 1 level towards active support for disciplining officers. International Human Rights Cartel, -1 aid for each space with an AUC piece. That's going to be something intriguing to everyone. People may be very interested in this, even the AUC, because they've got vaguely this worry that the government aid is getting way up there. Of course, they also have to stop the FARC, which is painful. Well, we'll see where we go. Okay, well, the AUC took advantage of this event to place a new base, and also that gave them some additional resources. That was the event play. So the FARC was able to slip in and take an action. They took a rally action, flipped all of these units inactive, as well as placing some more units to protect some of the bases, like where the AUC had them really kind of on the run there. And then they also performed an extort action, giving themselves a pile of resources so that they get to keep going. It's kind of a tough game in the sense that, there's always sort of this balance. You're paying out and making a little bit more, maybe, or a little less, or whatever, but you're not usually pulling a lot of money in. Of course, the foreign aid coming in, and that happens. It was pointed out to me, my thinking may have been bad because SAMPR prevents the aid from coming in the propaganda round. But given that I got away with the one from the event, I ended up more than making up for whatever disadvantage or whatever action I was taking towards raising the aid value in the future. I might have been in trouble, though, had I not gotten that big influx. Now we've got this card coming up. I got to sweep things around. And a new card. Succumbios. I don't know what this is. Ecuadorian buffer zone. Remove up to 3 insurgents from a space bordering Ecuador. Well, there are a lot of... What are insurgents? Are those any guerrillas? I better look that up. Cross-border war. Place 2 pieces in Ecuador. It's a 0 population department. No more than 2 pieces per faction may stack there. Well, I don't know how much value there is to creating these foreign bases. Certainly you can grow units out of it, I guess. But they're not worth victory points. You've seen people haven't been expanding into what I guess are safe areas back there. I don't know what the terrain counts. I guess not as any of these, which means any special abilities wouldn't apply. Let's take a look. Somewhere or another we have a glossary. It's pretty good there. Let's see what an insurgent piece is. Insurgent, FARC, okay, it's the guerrilla. But it would include bases as well. That's the difference. Gotcha. Alright. Well, we'll see where we go. The government performed some massive sweeps. Now that cost, I guess $9. At $3 a pop for that, right? Pushing in, activating all the insurgents, making life difficult on the FARCs. Now the FARCs have to pay a lot of rally to flip all these over, or else run away from their bases, which is ugly too. So they may just stick around and get schwacked. And then the cartel ends up saying, hey, I don't want this, I don't want a limited option, I don't want an event, I'll take a resource. Maybe the limited option would have been okay, I don't know. I don't see anything they terribly want to do. They kind of want to do their special activity, the cultivate or whatever, to build up their wealth. So, without getting that, they figured it's better to pass. Next time, they think there's a good chance that they might end up getting this or not. It's just tough, but they're in the second place on the card again, so who knows. So these sweep over, this cuts over, this comes down, and high mountain battalions. Elites guard high altitude corridors. Assault treats mountains as city. Ooh. I don't remember cities having anything special on them. Yeah, cities are just not mountains, I guess. Government capability, equipment not delivered, however, is the opposite side. One of these will take place, and there's little chits to cover these to indicate which one is. This will be for the rest of the game if it goes. Assault Mountain removes only one piece for 4 troops. So this is a very tasty choice for the government. And they have the first option on it and the desire to take it. The problem? Well, maybe they need to do something about the FARC. Of course, the FARC's going to get a reaction here, and they're up first. So to finish up this vid, because I see we've gone quite far already, the FARC hit again. Rally action, and on top of that, their bonus extortion that gave them a couple of bucks by flipping a couple of counters. I don't know, one here, one here. They moved some pieces around. You can see they're hidden. They're going to force the government to do another sweep. They're just trying to play, let's keep this up as long as we can. They also took away the cartel's ability to do a major action, which maybe they could have, done attacks across all over the place or something. Well, I don't know how much the cartel could really do with those. Terrors, though, they could work on reducing the opposition value, which would reduce the amount of points of support that the FARC have. That was a desirable end that they were considering. And they thought of something cooler because they could only hit one area, so they were probably going to pass. But they said, I like this event. I'm going to play it. It gives me 2 pieces in Ecuador. And I got to put the marker there for Sucumbos, if there is one. No, I guess there's not. Those are for the government events. Okay. But anyway, Ecuador is now in play for the rest of the game. There's no particular note for that. I'm not sure what to do with it. The deck doesn't get reshuffled, so I could put it, under here or something. But hey, I can always search for it. And they took 2 bases. That's legitimate. It's just pieces. And if you look in the glossary, it includes bases. One of my victory conditions is to get 10 bases up. And I would like to be able to try and, take some other actions. When my Cultivate allows me to move cartels, bases around the map and such. Not maybe. Depends on the situation. But I don't see a reason not to build them there. Out of the country and kind of bonused. And that sweeps these. Of course, they don't get an action. This, which the government definitely wants, comes up, and yummy Blackhawks. This is another government capability, and now I have to choose. Which one do I want? Do I want the high mountain troops, or do I want the Blackhawks? The Blackhawks allow me to throw any number of troops in an airlift. That would have been powerful. Like I could have slapped down enough to destroy an area completely while all the units were face up, but they're not now. On the other hand, the opposite side, if it's triggered, unlikely. The FARC goes very late in the turn, but who's available? Intriguing. Anyway, gotta think hard. Do I want the airlift? If I don't take the airlift, then the mountain troops probably will not be a problem, because I cannot see the AUC opposing those. Alright, I'm going to load this one up.